Hello everyone and good evening and welcome to today's webinar session brought to you by Shiksha.com and Missouri State University, USA. The topic for today's webinar is MSc in Computer Science program from Missouri State University. So before moving further with the presentation, I would like to introduce our panelists for today. Our first panelist is Mr. Brad Bodenhausen, Associate Vice President, International Education and Training at Missouri State University. Our second panelist is Mr. Patrick M. Parnell, Director of International Services. Our third panelist is Ms. Samantha Franca, Marketing and Web Specialist. Our fourth panelist is Ms. Winnie Wu, Marketing and Recruitment Specialist. And our fifth panelist is Ms. Parul Yadav, Graduate Assistant at Missouri State University. Thank you so much everyone for joining in today. I would now request Brad to please take the presentation further.
Thank you, Lakshmi, and thank you, Jatin. We certainly appreciate our partnership with Shiksha Study Abroad and the chance to meet students and share a little bit about Missouri State. I'll ask for a quick thumbs up to make sure everyone's hearing me okay. Is the sound coming through fine?
Yes, we can hear you, Brad.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lakshmi. Well, what we want to do in our presentation, we'll take about 20 or 30 minutes to start off with, just to introduce you to Missouri State University, get an idea about the university, the experience here, and particularly the Master's in Computer Science program. But most importantly, we want to hear from you. So please do think about questions along the way to put into the chat box, and we'll have plenty of time for group and individual questions at the end of the presentation. So we'll go ahead and jump in. Let me introduce you to Missouri State University. Go ahead, Sam. Well, the first thing to think about with our university is to understand where we're located. Just like India has so many different regions and subcultures within the national culture, you know, the United States is the same way. We have a large population, we have a large geography, so thinking about where you would go within the US does have an impact on the experience you would have. And when you come to Missouri State, you're literally coming to the middle of the United States. You know, the population center of the United States, if you balanced all the population of about 330 million people, the very center point is about 90 miles from where we're located in Southwest Missouri. On this map, you see Missouri, we're in the middle of the US, and the little bear logo in the lower left of the state is where we're located, in a city called Springfield, Missouri. So some of you may know of Springfield, of course, from The Simpsons, and it's a very common name. There are a lot of Springfields in the United States. There's about 40 different Springfields. So we'll try to tell you a little bit about the experience in this Springfield, Missouri. We're a city of about 500,000 people in our metropolitan area. And so the experience you have here certainly would be different than what you would find in Chicago or New York or Los Angeles. And later, Parul will tell you about her experience as a student, and she might share some things about the lifestyle in Springfield, because it's certainly more quiet than many of you may be used to, but there's some good things about that in terms of the community spirit. It's a very welcoming and friendly place, the chance to be involved with families and to share culture here is something that's more unique to a mid-sized city like this than you would experience in other larger cities in the US. Go ahead, Sam. Missouri State University is the second largest university in the state of Missouri. Overall, we have about 26,000 students. Most of those are on our Springfield campus, although we also have a campus location in another part of Missouri, a couple hours away from here. We have a small campus location in the Washington, D.C. area with a particular program there. We have a pretty large campus in China. But as far as the Springfield campus, we have overall we have about 1,500 international students. Some of those students are abroad in various places taking classes online right now. Of course, during the COVID pandemic, we have several students in that situation, including some in India. We have a number of students at our campus location in China, and then about half of that number, around 700, on our campus in Springfield. In normal times, in post-COVID, we'll have over 1,000, between 1,000 and 1,200 students on our Springfield campus. And those students represent more than 80 countries. So we have a lot of diversity in terms of the international student population here. But you'll see on this pie chart, we have the largest number from China, but right behind that is India with nearly 90 students right now, and a growing number. In fact, we had a very large number of new Indian students join us just last month in January as we began the spring semester. So there's a lot of interest in the computer science program in particular, and other graduate programs. A number of students from South Asia have joined us. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea about the international flavor at Missouri State. I'm going to turn it over now to Parul, because we think the most important thing for you to hear first is from an international student, and particularly a student from India who can share her perspective on the experience. We really feel like that the experience of coming to Missouri State is something that's very important for you to understand, because we've placed such a high emphasis on taking care of students, providing student support, and Parul can walk you through that process as she experienced it, from the application process on through arriving and now being a graduate student in the MBA program here at Missouri State. So Parul, why don't you take it here for a little while, and then I'll come back in a bit.
Thanks, Brad. So I'll take you guys through my experience from my application process to admission, and then as a student here, and how it is like to stay with other Indian students and other international and American students as well. So I primarily chose this university because of first, it is accredited. So we have the AACSB accreditation for our university and for the program. And then the fee is affordable as compared to other B schools, because I'm doing MBA and project management. So it pretty much made sense for me to see my finances, seeing the current exchange rate for US and Indian currency. Other than that, the faculty is very nice and supportive. I think the program is very much made for students who wants to see a practical experience as well as the academic experience as well. So I'll say overall, the university structure with regard to the program, their offerings for the student with regard to academics and other experience, it's pretty much very well blended. From the computer science perspective, because we are doing a webinar for computer science students, a lot of things have changed, and we have quite a high number of students who have come for spring. Some of the faculties and their specialization that has attracted new students, I would like to highlight that. I'll mention two faculty. One is head of the department, Dr. Ajay Katungar. So his specialization in artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing, wireless networks, and optical networks. His latest research was on how to make drones that are resistant to hacking, which can be used by government, basically US government or other government agencies, to make it very seamless platform for them to use for their safety and tracking other things. Few of the Indian students are doing on artificial intelligence. Later on I'll introduce Rakshit. He is a graduate assistant in computer science department. He is doing his project in artificial intelligence and gaming. And another is Dr. Razib Iqbal. He's from Bangladesh. He's associate professor. His research has recently got award and recognition. It's basically on Internet of Things, digital content adaptation, which talks about how to improve Siri and Alexa for people with dementia and those who are older and they forget the keywords. So how to make a very seamless platform for students, for older people that that tend to forget how to use such devices. He also specializations in multimedia system and computing, its application in day-to-day life, and some of his research is inclined to make computing adaptable to health sector. Samantha, can you move the slide, please? Yeah. Now I would like to talk about the experiences of students. We have a GLAM organization, which actually supports students when they are arriving from other countries, like from India. We'll help you with airport pickup. We'll help you with temporary accommodation, with the vaccinations. Like, it is important that you get your TB vaccine, and right now we need to do quarantine, and you're required to get COVID testing. We'll help with the finding you right accommodation, with some furniture support, with your getting your bank and grocery pickup. So pretty much this GLAM organization that we have, a group of students, they are pretty much helping all the international students with their every need that they need, with their transition and to adapt to Missouri State. Sam. So we have a good amount of facilities. We have our rec center, which is for foster recreation center and health and wellness center. So our insurance basically pretty much cover everything with regard to our health concerns, which is very important for international student, because a health sector is pretty expensive. So with a bare minimum cost of, I think, $600 or $700 approximately, which is charged per semester, we are covered for all our health concerns, which is very good. With regard to our activities, we have a lot of organizations. We have gyms, and we have, I think, our sports arena, and a lot of different cultural events are also held in our university, which is a good hands-on experience for students who are coming from a different country, and they want to experience how it is like to be in US. Oh yes, and then we have some events which are cultural events for Indian students. We have a South Asian Student Association, which actually is meant for all the South Asian students. We do Diwali event, Holi, Eid, and we even celebrate Halloween for the students, so that they get to meet the Indian community and South Asian community. And because of COVID, we couldn't do anything last year, but we did a Zoom event. We tried to stay in touch and meet as often as we can. Sam? These are the photographs from last Holi event that we had. And this is there is one AIS banquet that we do, that is for all the international countries, celebrating and showcasing their culture, their food, and their dance performance or musical performance that we do annually. Sam, do you want to go ahead? Oh, another thing we have is International Friends Program. Brad, I think it'll be best if you will explain about International Friends. Or do you want me to go ahead and tell you?
Actually, I was going to ask Winnie to share just a little bit about her experience from international friends and university activities, and then I'll talk about the programs in a little more detail. Go ahead, Winnie.
Thank you, Barrett. Hello, everyone. This is Winnie from Missouri State. As a formal international student, I know I want to attend to a university that, of course, I will achieve my academic goals, but I also want to go to a place that I can enjoy my life there, and I got all the support I can from that university, because studying abroad, in a different university is not a very easy thing, right? So when I came to Missouri State, I was introduced to this International Friends program. So this program is about the Missouri State will match you with a local family or local friend, and then you will become friend with them. You will plan your own activities with your international friends based on your own interest. For me, my international friends family, they invite me to all the traditional American holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, any holiday events, they will invite me there. And to me, that's a great thing, because I will know that I have a family in America, even though they're not my real family, but they treat me like a real dollar. So when my mom actually came to my graduation 6 years ago, and she got to meet my international friends family, and she also got to stay at their place. And then they took my mom to the places in Springfield everywhere, and it's just so welcoming, and they just really treat us as families. And at the end, I remember my mom told me one night saying, I am just so glad that people here are actually supporting you, treating you like a family. This way I know, I made a good decision to send you to Missouri State, because I know you're really taken good care of by a lot of people here. So that just shows you how the community supports international students, and how we are, as the international student population, are valued at Missouri State and also in Springfield community. Brad?
Thanks, Winnie. And Sam, before you leave this slide, I just want to also point out in the photo on the top is Ashna Shah. Ashna came here from India, studied in the graduate program, and she's pictured with her international friends, host family. And the family there includes the man in the middle is the president of our Chamber of Commerce. So he's the leader of our local business community. And he and his wife and their 2 children really became close with Ashna. And Ashna is now living in New York City. She's working in banking. She studied finance here at Missouri State through her MBA. And she stays in regular touch with this family. And so in addition to the personal support that Winnie talked about so well, with the community connection and support that comes from international friends, there's also a professional aspect to that as well. Having a mentor, having someone who gets to know you and can help you look for job opportunities. That's one of the advantages of a town the size of Springfield as compared to a larger city. A university our size with 26,000 students is a significant part of the local community. And so we have very good business and professional connections in the community. There are a number of companies that look to Missouri State to produce graduates that would be working for companies here. And so there are a lot of opportunities for that professional connection, and some of that even comes through the International Friends Program. That's one of the most important things, I think, to emphasize, in addition to the friendly and family support. The other one is just the chance to share culture. You see in this photo, Ashna had an opportunity to share, at least from the wardrobe standpoint, a little bit about Indian culture with her host family. They wouldn't have learned about India any other way. We don't have a highly diverse local population, but we have people that are very interested in what's going on in the world. And so with this and with activities on campus, it's kind of a two-way street, let's say, for learning. Students have a chance certainly to learn about and connect with American culture, but you also have a chance to share your own perspective, your own national culture and regional culture with families and people here in the community. And that's something that we value very much with our involvement of international students here locally. Go ahead, Sam. So we're going to move on to the details in a little more depth of what you're interested in, and that's the Master of Science in Computer Science program. Parul touched on this very well earlier with a couple of points. I just want to reinforce that and highlight the theme. While I do, you might take a look at Snigdha Chowdhury's comments. She is a student here in the MS Computer Science program. The research that Dr. Iqbal is doing that Parul introduced, related to Internet of Things and how to use technology to better support individuals, older individuals who are facing dementia, loss of memory, and challenges in living on their own. I reinforce that because so much of the research and activities that happen in our computer science department are designed for that kind of applied usage, not just studying things for the sake of studying them, but studying and using technology in a way that helps people. Our university has a public affairs mission, and it's granted by our state government. It's something that is unique to Missouri State University, and it's called public affairs, which basically means whatever field someone studies, you take what you learn and apply that to help the community and to help other people. And we want people to be not just good technically at what they do, but also good at serving others with their knowledge. And so this public affairs mission has three main points. One is cultural competence, which of course all international students bring that and learn that and develop that here at Missouri State. But the second is community engagement, and this type of research I think is a good example of that. And the third is ethical leadership. And so in the area of technology, that means thinking about not just what can we do through technology, but what should we do? And how could we do things through technology to make life better for other people? That's really the mission of Missouri State, and it is carried out through the MS Computer Science program. We focus a lot on that practical experience, internships, service learning, this applied hands-on research, a lot of competitions. There are many chances for graduate students to be part of teams that are involved in competitions with other universities at the regional and even the international level. And as Snigdha mentions in her comments here, it's a very interdisciplinary program. Being a large university, Missouri State has 7 academic colleges. We have hundreds of different undergraduate majors, 50 or 60 different graduate programs. And a university of this size gives you an opportunity not just to take what you study in computer science discretely, but to connect that with other fields. And in Snigdha's case, she's working with people in the biology and chemistry and physics department and adding more depth and content to what she's doing from the standpoint of technology. And that's one of the benefits of Missouri State. Go ahead, Sam. Just a little more about the structure of the computer science program. It's a 30-hour master's degree. There are a couple of options. You can do it more on the research focus and write a thesis and take fewer classes, or you could take a course-only option and you basically take one additional class but don't have to write the thesis. Some students, a lot of students choose that option. It of course is a STEM program. We know that makes that very attractive for international students, which means you qualify for the OPT, the optional practical training, which in the case of STEM gives you a chance to extend that by 2 years, making a total of 3 years of work eligibility. And that's where the connection to the local and regional business community is helpful because placements there, either on projects or something called CPT, curricular practical training, during your master's time helps open the door for possible OPT positions. So we can answer more questions certainly about that if you have detailed questions. And then the third point there lists some of the types of coursework: algorithms, data mining, software engineering, Parul did a good job earlier, really outlining the type of things that are part of that program in terms of Internet of Things, drones, just a lot of interesting things going on. And we can answer those in more detail as you would have questions. I also want to introduce a couple of other programs just very briefly, because you noticed in Parul's comments, she is also studying for the MS in project management, combining that with the MBA. And that's something a lot of students have started doing, because the MS in project management is also a STEM program. It's very well recognized as an interdisciplinary program. And we have found students who might be undergraduate students in technology or in business or even in engineering choose project management as a way to add on to their technical studies and learn some of the management and communications and organizational skills that would help them not only get that entry-level position in their technical field, but also have the skill set to move up into leadership and management roles. So we find that project management masters being a good complement to other master's degrees or to various undergraduate degrees. So we wanted to mention that as well in case you had questions about that. And Sam, go ahead. And likewise for the MBA, we just wanted to briefly introduce that. We certainly have a lot of students pursue that path as well. One of the unique things about our MBA program is we have our College of Business is accredited by the AACSB, as Parul mentioned earlier, and we also have many students choose a particular certificate program. We have a large College of Business with 5,000 students almost. We have a cybersecurity department, so there is a lot of interaction between our College of Business in the cybersecurity program and also with the computer science department. In a way, we really break it down where the technology side is handled with computer science, but the management of data, the management of information, the way you structure technology in a corporate setting is handled through our cybersecurity and data analytics and CIS part of the program. So we wanted to mention that as well because of the interaction and the opportunity to connect the MBA studies with college or with computer science. Okay, Sam, go ahead. So let's get into the details because we know this is where you'll have some questions. I want to hit the highlights and Patrick Parnell can jump in as needed if you have questions as well. We work with the graduate college on admissions. So for students who are applying, international students who are applying for admission to Missouri State, you will work with our International Services Office, of which Patrick is the director. But we will also coordinate with the graduate college and the program director of computer science to help students through the application and admission process. So there are a few points I want to emphasize first, and then certainly respond to your questions. The undergraduate GPA requirement is the equivalent of a 3.0 on a 4-point scale is what the computer science department is looking for. Generally, they ask for a GRE score, but because the availability of taking the GRE has been limited during COVID, we're still in a period where the GRE score is waived. We will probably return fairly soon to a period where the GRE score is required, and there may be a period of time where a GRE is preferred. So if you have taken the GRE and you have a score of 290 or higher, that's very good, and that's very much the expectation for graduate college here at Missouri State. But I will, just clarify that currently you don't have to have a GRE score to apply for a graduate program. Financial support, there's documentation that's needed to show you be able to show to have the finances to cover 1 year of study, and as Parul mentioned, it's very affordable here. And in the final slide, I'll share a little bit more about the financial arrangements. And then proof of English proficiency. You see there the TOEFL and Ielts scores that are required for graduate admission. We also have other alternatives now, the Pearson test, PTE, Duolingo, or students that may need just extra support to reach the English proficiency level. We have our own English Language Institute, and you can qualify from a language proficiency standpoint by going through our graduate capstone program. And in some cases, students may need just some additional support, particularly with regard to academic writing, because that's so much expected at the graduate studies level. And we certainly are in a position to support students that may be admitted to the program but need that extra bit of support in the first semester. The overall program, I forgot to mention earlier, is I said it was 30 hours. Generally, that is spread over 18 months. So you can take up to 2 years, certainly, to complete the program, but most students would go through the program in 3 semesters. So if you were looking to start this coming fall in August of 2021, that would be fall semester, spring semester, and the following fall is typically the pathway for students taking the MS Computer Science program. Okay, Sam, let's go ahead to the remaining slides. Cost. Okay, here we go. This is where I know you're waiting for this information, and here it is for you. We broke it down this way, and this is based on taking what's considered a full load as a graduate student, which is 9 credit hours. That is basically 3 courses in this program. And to stay on that path of completing in 18 months, you would have 9 or 10 credit hours generally each semester. The tuition and fees, that changes a little bit each year. It creeps up a little bit, just keeping up with cost of living and things like that. But the graduate tuition and the student service fee for a full academic year, so that's for 2 semesters, that's basically 2/3 of this program, is the $12,000 figure. The living expenses, of course, that varies depending on what kind of living arrangements you make. Most graduate students live off campus. I would say there's a chance to certainly spend less than that. That's a high-end estimate based on meals, living expenses, housing, and books are included in that category as well. International student insurance is required, and so that's the 2-semester amount of $1,554. You add that up, the total cost for 1 year is under $25,000. Go ahead, Sam. We have some scholarship opportunities at the graduate level. The most common and the most popular is called the MOGO. It's the Missouri Opportunity for Graduate Studies, and you simply qualify for that automatically if you have a 3.25 GPA. And Patrick can clarify how we handle that. I think while we're still waiving the GRE is not required, just the GPA, in order to get the MOGO scholarship. And so that right there makes a significant impact in cutting the cost down to just $20,000 for 1 year. And then the best opportunity, and by the way, there's a couple of photos of Springfield there that you can see and have an idea of the downtown area. Finally, it's very important to mention graduate assistant opportunities. Parul is in a graduate assistant position with us here in international programs. We have several South Asian students who are serving graduate assistant positions in our office or across campus. Here is a photo of Rakshith, who's doing a graduate assistant position within computer science, which is a great opportunity. That's certainly the best, because you're able to help with teaching and research at an even deeper level, make those connections and collaborate with faculty, and most importantly, have all of your tuition paid. So the tuition fee waiver, it covers full tuition for the program, plus you receive a monthly stipend on top of that. which is approximately $9,000 a year. But the last point is important. Those are very competitive, and it's not common for a student to get a graduate assistant position immediately upon arriving at Missouri State, but there certainly are opportunities to build your resume, to put in for an application for a graduate assistant position and have that in at least part of your graduate program. So we'd encourage you to look into those opportunities if you're pursuing Missouri State. It's certainly affordable without that, but obviously with a graduate assistant position, it's a very good opportunity for students. I think we'll open it up to questions. Sam, go on. I believe we're to our last slide, and we've put in a QR code. If you can take a scan of that. We have a survey to give us some feedback. We certainly want your feedback on how the presentation is, what information we provided, and again, most importantly, we want to answer your questions. So Lakshmi, I think we'll turn it back over to you to facilitate. We have plenty of time to answer questions to the group or individual questions, and we thank you so much for your interest in Missouri State.
Thank you so much, Brad. Yes, we have a lot of questions from students. So student, just to inform you, in case you want to ask your question directly, you can click on the raise hand tab. And once you click on that, I will unmute you and you can ask your question directly to the panelist. So I'm now going to take questions from the Q&A section. So this question is from Sri Lakshmi Krishna. She's asking, I am a BE in EEE and final year project has been published in Indian Journal of Impact Factor of Impact Factor. My Ielts score is 6.5 and my GRE is 265. What is the chances of me getting an MSc Computer Science program?
Sri Lakshmi, that's a good question. Since we don't make the decisions, I don't have an ability to say automatically, but with your 6.5 Ielts, you certainly qualify. On the 265 GRE, that tends to be on the lower side of what the computer science program would accept. But as I mentioned, we're in a GRE waiver mode. So you could apply and not submit the GRE score. I think a lot will have to do in your situation on the undergraduate GPA, number of backlogs, if any, on your record, things like that. But we certainly have a program that is accessible, I think, for you with that profile. I'd encourage you.
Brad, we cannot hear you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes, I can go ahead with that question. So you can go ahead and apply because you have a research publication with an impact factor. So that will add to your application package. Right now we see application holistically, not just your GRE score, but your GPA as well and your publications, like Brad said, your backlogs also. So if you have any accomplishments, that will add to your application package, I believe.
Okay. Okay, moving to the next question. There are a lot of questions from students wherein they're asking about if the fall 2021 classes are going to be hybrid, online, or on campus.
Can you hear me now, Lakshmi?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about the audio. Can you? Okay, good deal. Well, as of right now, we are in kind of a hybrid mix. So for this spring semester, about 30% of our classes are seated, fully seated. about a third are fully online and another third are hybrid, where they might meet once a week, but also continue online. We will generally have the same approach in the fall, although we expect a higher number of seated courses. Of course, it will depend program by program, but our expectation is about 40 or 45% of our courses will be fully seated, and just over half will be either hybrid or fully online. For students that come to the U.S., we're still waiting on what the directions would be from the U.S. government on what percentage of classes would need to be seated. Right now, we're operating under the guidance that for international students here, at least one course needs to be seated. And we would expect that at least to be the rule in the fall, and depending on how the vaccine distribution progresses and the status of COVID, that would possibly change by the fall semester.
Okay. Okay, I'm now going to take a live question. I'm going to unmute Manisha Adiwane. Manisha, I have unmuted you. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, actually, I have a question regarding backlogs, because I'm having more backlogs, more than 10 to 15, and I'm planning for computer science. But whereas I'm having 5 years of experience in a software field, so may I know the chances of getting admission? And is there any backlog limits also to apply for the university?
There's not a firm limit, although generally speaking, if there are more than 10 backlogs, with their approach right now, the computer science department is not approving applicants with more than 10 backlogs. Part of that is the program has grown so much, they are taking a little bit stricter look at that. But as you mentioned, you have other experience, and as Parul mentioned earlier, they do take a holistic approach. So I think you should approach it realistically and not treat that as an automatic denial. But I want you to be aware that that is something they're starting to take a closer look at as they review applications.
Cool, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Manisha.
Thank you so much, Manisha. Next, I'm going to unmute Sai Karthik. Sai, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Sai Karthik Vikurthi, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, hello, sir. How to calculate the GPA? Means with your scale of 4.0. I have a CGPA of 7.45 in my graduate, my undergraduate. So, how to calculate?
I'm not sure I totally understand your question, but how we calculate the GPA, if that's the question, I want to ask Patrick Parnell to join in and answer that. We go through a particular process to do transcript evaluations, and Patrick described how that works go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I can jump in. Can everybody hear me okay? Great.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I didn't quite get the question, but as part of our graduate admissions process, we have a qualified credential evaluator who would review your transcript, your undergraduate transcript, based on either the 3 or 4 year system, depending on where you're coming from in India. And the equivalent of the GPA that would be required would be determined through the credential evaluation. And again, we would compare it to our 4-point scale in the US as indicated earlier for requirements. The minimum GPA requirement for the graduate college, which covers all graduate programs, is 2.75. But we've already indicated that for this specific program, it's a little higher at 3.0. I believe you may have indicated a 4.6, which I would have to do the actual, I'd have to see the actual evaluation of your transcript, but that should put you in range.
Sai, can you? Okay, he's muted himself. Okay, moving to the next question, I'm going to take Siddharth Jain's question. Siddharth, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Siddharth, please ask your question.
My question is, do I need to have a 4 years of bachelor's degree as I'm having a 3 years of bachelor degree?
No, not necessarily. And as I mentioned, depending on whether it's a 3 or 4 year system, we would do the credential evaluation to make sure that you meet the minimum hours requirement for admission to the graduate college. And so that doesn't automatically take you out with a 3-year degree.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. Now I'm going to read out a few more questions. So there are a few questions from students wherein they're asking for the cutoff for GRE marks for MSc in Computer Science program. What would be the cutoff for GRE?
When we are accepting GRE, the graduate college requirement is 290, and the computer science department has followed that. There have been cases in the past where they have made an exception and gone a little bit lower than that. But as I mentioned, as the program grows and their capacity to grow shrinks a little bit, I think using 290 as a goal or a threshold is probably the appropriate target. Would you say, Patrick?
Okay. Our next question is from Akanksha. She's asking that can I opt for computer science department from mechanical once I get in admit and come to the university? I have a GPA of 8.88 on 10 scale and Ielts 6.5 and GRE 303.
Well, those qualifications are outstanding. First of all, congratulations on that. I didn't quite understand the transfer part. Could you clarify that?
I think she means to say that she's currently in a mechanical department and she wants to transfer herself from mechanical. She wants to opt from to computer science program from mechanical. Her background is currently mechanical.
Yeah, so that's certainly not a problem. But what the computer science program director will look at are the courses she's taken as an undergraduate. Patrick may have a little more detail of specifically which math courses he would be looking for. But frankly, coming from mechanical engineering, my guess is you would easily match those. Patrick, do you have any experience with that?
No, I think you answered it correctly. It would be completely, the program director would review what you have on your transcript and then what you have taken in your background. And it sounds like you have a very qualified background for what they would be looking for.
Okay. Next question is from Arun. He's asking, is there an application fee applicable when we apply for the program, or is there a way the application fee can be waived off?
Go ahead, Patrick.
Yes, there's an application fee of $55, but if you were to apply, we would waive your application fee with a coupon code that we would provide you.
Okay.
Patrick's very generous today. That's a good offer.
But you have to apply right now. No, just kidding.
Okay. Next question is from Zeki, and he's asking about that. What are the other documents other than the GRE and English language test that we would need to submit if we want to apply for a scholarship?
Well, I can jump in there just in terms of actual admission overall and then consideration for a scholarship. You need the English proficiency component in addition to completing what we call our system is GradCast, the full GradCast application, in which you would submit all of your undergraduate transcripts and any graduate work that you have as well through that system. That's the very base requirement for admission and consideration. For admission, like I said, for admission or a scholarship opportunity. There are some programs that have different requirements, such as a personal essay or a reference or a resume. So I believe with computer science, they do want to see your resume or CV, which would be another requirement. And finally, just before we can issue the I-20, the Form I-20, which is your immigration document, Brad has already alluded to the financial guarantee, and that would be the final component that we would need to confirm your admission to the program and any scholarship that you may receive.
Okay. Next question is from Harita. She's asking, is GRE mandatory for MSc Computer Science? And is Duolingo also accepted by the university?
I'll go backwards. Duolingo is considered with a minimum score of 100, and the GRE at this time is not mandatory for consideration into the computer science program, but may be in the future following the fall 2021 cycle. But currently, for applying for fall, it is not mandatory.
Okay. Okay, moving to the next live question, I'm going to unmute B. Srija. Srija, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, sir. I'm studying right now in engineering final year. So I wanted to take only IELTS exam and join your university. So is it possible?
So your question is, will the Ielts suffice for the proficiency component?
MS in computer science, sir.
Yes, absolutely. It is one of the many options we have for proficiency consideration. You would need a minimum 6.0 IELTS for admission consideration.
Okay, sir. And when will the college start? University college starts? Academic year.
So the academic year beginning in the fall will begin on August 21st, 22nd. It's mid to late August is when the semester begins, and then goes through December.
Yes, and for
Okay,
general,
sir. Thank you, sir.
For general planning purposes, you know, we have to monitor how things progress with COVID and all of that. You should generally plan for arriving in the U.S. In early August. You know, we would do an international student orientation. There would be a graduate student orientation, and as of right now, at least, there's some arrival protocols in terms of quarantine and testing that some manner of which would likely still be in place then. So for planning purposes, you know, thinking about early August is really the time frame to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I would just add that once you have your admission and you've secured your F1 visa, you are eligible to arrive in the US 30 days in advance of that start date for the semester.
Okay. Moving to the next question. This is again asked by Harita. She's asking, will my visa get rejected if I only go with Duolingo and without GRE for MSc in CS?
So there is no way that I can guarantee if a visa would be rejected for whatever reason, or if it will be accepted. We have experience with students who have had those qualifications or have submitted them as part of their, when they do apply for their visa, and it doesn't seem to be an issue. The most important part when you are applying for that visa is that you have full admission to the program, which is determined by our institution. We prove that by providing you with the Form I-20. And as long as you have the financials to back that up with your confirmed admission, there really should be no problem. Like I said, I can't guarantee. Every embassy is different, every consulate is different. But if you meet the admission requirements, then there's no reason why you would be rejected.
Okay. Next question. There are 2-3 questions again, Patrick. Where students are asking about the campus, on-campus accommodation. They wanted to ask that if the on-campus accommodation is going to be cheaper for them than the off-campus accommodation if they opt for.
We do have a wide range of on-campus housing options with all different price points and all different types of accommodations, and so it is very diverse. And we We do believe that the on-campus residential experience is really important for both undergraduate and graduate students. But that being said, there are many, many options off campus, very close to our campus, within walking distance, within cycling distance, that may be more affordable, just depending on what you're looking at and what you're looking for. And so I guess my big message is that there's something for everybody and there's something for every price point. And Brad has already alluded to the type of community that we are, very safe, a very clean environment, and lots of really good options.
Okay. Moving to next question. This is asked by Sai. He's asking, do we need the letter of recommendation and statement of purpose for application process?
For computer science, I believe it's recommended. I do believe the resume or CV is required, and I would recommend also having a letter of reference. That it never hurts. I know for project management it is required.
Okay. Moving to next question. This is asked by Jisha. She's asking that, can you please highlight some points around safety and security for international students in the campus or nearby?
I may jump in here and ask Parul to share her perspective. I think it's one thing for us to say, okay, here's what we think about safety, but Parul, can you jump on and just give your thoughts of the feelings about safety on campus and in the community?
So I live off campus, I think 15 minutes walkable distance from my College of Business where I go for my classes, and 5 minutes from downtown. And I can assure you it's very, very safe. Everything is everyone is friendly, everything is safe and secure. Since I'm living off campus and I'm not living in an apartment system but a housing system, I have entire area which is allocated to me, and it's been like 1.5 years since I'm here, and it's extremely safe. We go outside during nighttime also, and it is pretty safe with police around. Even our Walmart is nearby where we buy our groceries, so over there also we have security. And usually I walk by to my college and office, and it is extremely safe for me to walk. I have never ever encountered any kind of bad experience, nor anybody I know, since we Indian students pretty much stick together with each other. So I can assure you it is very safe. You can, for safety, I can very much assure you that you can just blindly trust on what I'm saying.
Okay. Next question is from Shobit, and he's asking, once I apply to the university, how and when do I receive the I-20?
That's a very good question. And so as we've discussed, we work with the graduate college and the specific program to process your application, to get a decision, and to disseminate your immigration documents. In a perfect world, I would like to see that happen in a span of 21 days to issuance of your I-20. That doesn't always happen that way, but that's our goal. So once you're able to submit your application, we recommend that you submit it in full. That always helps us to expedite it. So that's all required documents submitted. Once it's submitted, we process in that GradCast system. We forward to the department, and some departments are faster than others. Computer science usually has a very good turnaround rate. And so once they're able to make a decision and we can verify financials, we can issue the document, the form I-20. And also, because of COVID, in the past year, we've been able to issue the I-20 electronically. And so we can email it directly to you with an electronic signature, which wasn't the case in the past. And that also greatly expedites the process.
Okay. Next question is from Siddharth. He's asking, do I need a WES evaluation for admission?
You do not need WES. We would certainly accept WES if it's something that you would like to submit. It certainly is eligible for an admission decision. If you do not submit WES, then we will evaluate your academic credentials within our own department, like I said earlier, with an expert evaluator.
Okay. So again, there are a lot of questions from students when they're asking what would be the deadline date for fall applications.
Well, with computer science, we are recommending that you submit your application by May 1st for the fall semester. For computer science and other programs, we certainly can admit, and students do submit applications later and are admitted later than that, but we are recommending a May 1st deadline for the fall.
Okay.
Pat, sorry to jump in. Since we are having appointment issues, can we encourage them to apply a little before that, and so that they have time for, making visa appointments and other things?
Thank you, Parul. We always would recommend to apply as early as possible, to apply as soon as possible, as soon as you're able to submit your application, especially with the visa appointment situation globally and in India.
Okay, another question. Okay, there are students asking for the application. How can they obtain for a application fee waiver coupon? They're asking a question. There are a lot of students asking this question, that how can they get an application fee waiver coupon?
Yes, and so just once you apply, you would request the application fee waiver. It can be sent in an email request to International Services at Missouri State. If we identify that the student is coming from through this network, then we would automatically provide that coupon code. So there are multiple ways to receive that coupon code.
Okay, moving to the next question. This is from Ajay, and he's asking, in case after the course completion, I do not get a job directly, how much time I can stay to find a job in US?
So once you complete your program of study, we've already discussed the option of optional practical training, or OPT. And so in order to stay in the US longer than the allotted grace period, which is 60 days for any F1 student, you must apply for OPT in advance of completion of your studies. If you are approved for OPT for computer science, you are eligible for up to 3 years of OPT. So you have your first year of OPT, which is 1 full year where you could be employed anywhere in the US and you're eligible to remain in the US. If you are accepted for the STEM extension, which we've discussed, that would add 2 additional years. So a minimum of 1 year in the US as long as you're approved for the OPT.
Okay. So Sai is asking that I have a CGPA of 7.4 out of 10. Now, how can I calculate is this from the scale of 4?
That is something like as I mentioned, we would have to work with our evaluator to determine exactly what the equivalent is. You're within range, but I can't tell you exactly.
Okay. So with this, I'll come to the last question for today. This question is asked by Bashir, and he is asking, what are the measures that the university is taking during this COVID time for international students?
Can I ask Brad to comment on that?
Sure. Well, let me share a few thoughts, and then would certainly ask others to join in. You know, the experience of the last 10 months has been just a constant learning experience for everyone dealing with COVID. And for us, especially in international programs, one thing is always the most important, and one thing is always the first thing we think about, and that is, what is the impact on international students? So there's really 2 different answers to this. One is how we have managed to support international students that are already here in the US. And that became our immediate focus last March when our university went to online only studies for the remaining part of the spring semester and the summer semester. And so we went immediately into support mode for students and put together an outreach program so that we could stay in touch with and understand the needs of international students. We have been able to put together grants for emergency funding needs for international students, food support as it's needed. we had a lot of students who were, our campus remained open as far as living arrangements for international students. A lot of students last fall went to universities that literally closed their campus, and international students had to figure out where to live or how to try to go back home at a time where they couldn't travel back home. Missouri State didn't do that. We kept our dormitories open. About half of the students that remained on campus were international students, and we provided regular outreach to them. The campus dining services remained open and delivered food to students. So as a university, we're proud that we put a high emphasis on taking care of students, and with international programs, we continued to do that. And then things changed, of course, as the pandemic rolled on, and we realized this was going to be a long, enduring challenge, not an immediate thing we had to survive. And so we created a new group called the International Student Care and Advocacy Team. And in fact, several people who are panelists here today are part of that team. And we've realized that there are a lot of additional challenges that go with COVID beyond just the health concern. One is certainly the social isolation and the inability to interact with people, that some students have a real challenge with that. So all of us have a real challenge with that. And so sometimes there are physical and mental health issues related to that. There are issues related to being able to focus and study and do well in your courses. So we have put together a very systematic method of outreach so that we can hear from students, understand what challenges they have, connect them with resources on campus or in our community that will help them get through the particular challenge they're facing. And there's also technical and technology aspects to this, making sure students have the technology they need to connect and be successful in an online class setting. And of course, we've all learned how to deal with that through things like GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, Zoom, different technologies, and become more and more proficient with that along the way. The other aspect is then being flexible with students who aren't able to travel to the United States. So this happened a lot as we prepared for the fall semester, that in the early part of the process, we were preparing for students to be able to travel here. And as the summer wore on and the pandemic continued, we realized that students were not going to be approved for visas and travel was going to continue to be restricted. That was especially what we experienced with India. So we had a high number of students who were prepared to come to the US in August of this past year, but were unable to travel or were unable to get visas approved. So in that case, we became very flexible and supportive, trying to encourage students to enroll online and then come here physically later. Some students chose to do that, others did not. And many of those students who deferred actually were able to make it here in December and January to start this semester. So I think the two key words in all this, and I apologize for the long answer, but it's a very important question. And I think it's something that you need to know how important it is to us to manage through the COVID pandemic. The two key words, I think, are support and flexibility. Flexibility because there's so much uncertainty with how to proceed for students, for faculty members, for university administrators, and support because we're in a time we just need to help each other out with the needs and the unexpected challenges that come up through the pandemic. And so we've continued to proceed with those two main words and goals in mind. And I described earlier what the mix of classes is on campus now. Our university opened in the fall. We've stayed open in the spring semester. We'll be open in the coming fall. We continue to adapt in terms of how the class offering is mixed. We've put a big emphasis on, of course, cleaning the classrooms, making sure that we keep everything disinfected. Masks are required on our campus and in the community. And we have, as Parul mentioned earlier, a very good healthcare clinic, a wellness center on campus that has been doing a great job. And we monitor weekly. I'm part of the administrator group that meets weekly to monitor the number of cases on campus and to do all of the contact tracing and the follow-up care that's needed for any students or faculty members or staff that contract COVID. We have had very low numbers of transmission on campus, and that's declining right now since we started this semester, particularly due to the vaccine distribution. So I hope that answers your question. Probably more detailed than you wanted, but I wanted to make sure we do a thorough job explaining that to you and all the students. So thanks, Lakshmi.
Thank you so much, Brad, and thank you so much everyone for taking out time and answering the queries, student queries. And it was a very informative session. With this, we come to the end of the session. And students, Shiksha counselors will get in touch with you. You will get a call from Shiksha counselors for your further assistance. And in case if you want to get in touch with the university, you already have the university email ID in front of you. You can get in touch with the university representatives. And once again, thank you so much, Brad. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking out time. And before we end this session, is there something you would like to specifically share with students before they apply?
Well, the only thing I would say in addition, Lakshmi, is just to thank all the students for your time and the questions and the interest you have in Missouri State University. We hope that we've conveyed that this is a welcoming community, a safe place to go to school, and most importantly, a place that will give you a good academic program, high quality academic program, combined with faculty interaction and practical experience that would position you well for your OPT period and future job opportunities in the U.S. So we hope you'll continue to consider Missouri State. We'll hope you'll apply to Missouri State, and please let the Shiksha counselors know or us know directly if you have further questions. Thanks so much. Have a good evening and have a good weekend.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, students. Have a great day ahead and have a great weekend. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.